Hi, I'm Vic Barber. I'm a captain at Legacy Airlines on the 737, based out of Dallas Fort Worth International Airport, and I've been flying commercially for 37 years.
What do you recall of the moment you first found out about the events that happened on 9/11?
I was visiting my family in Anchorage, Alaska, and I got up that morning, and my aunt woke me up. She said, "Come in, you have to see this." So I got up and I went into the living room and watched the pictures. Uh, Straight back to the bedroom and on my knees, praying for our country and for our people. That's what I remember the most.
And how did the events of that day affect you and your family?
Well, uh, like it affected all of us in the industry. There was fear and doubt, and it made us get a little closer to each other. We got closer. We went straight to our family, our church family. Everybody supported each other. Um, with regards to, well, I didn't have children yet, and that would have changed things dramatically, I suppose. But it turns out the year anniversary of 9/11, we announced that we were having our first son. So it didn't take us long to recover into joy with him. So,
What was it like afterwards in the days and weeks following the event for you and your airline career? What was it like going back to work? Were you off work for a long time?
well, actually, I don't recall being off for a terrific amount of time. Of course, it happened that first day. We sat around and we watched and we moped and we sat around and my cousin was there. Uh, and we finally said, "Well, we're going to sit around here and wonder about what we can't do, or what." And so we decided to go fishing. So we went on the Kenai River and went fly fishing for trout, and then we went down to the ocean and we went clam digging, and we fished for went down towards Homer and fished for steelhead, and we just concentrated on something that we could do at the time, because I was stuck. I was worried about my wife. She was out here at the ranch, so there really wasn't. She was really in good hands. I feel fortunate about that. And we didn't have any children, which would made things much easier for me than for a lot of people who had children. And I was stuck up there until they started flying some airplanes, and I got out on. I don't even remember what airline I got out on. I think it was Delta, down to Seattle, and then I was able to get on Legacy to back home. And we were home for just a little while, and then we just started putting it together and flying again. That's what you do. You pick up and you press on.
Yeah.
And what changes did you see in the immediate days after you started flying again, if any?
Well, of course, there was the security. That was all a big deal, and it's a petty thing, but I always had my Leatherman tool with me. If you see me and I'm not at the airport, I've got my Leatherman tool on my hip because I use it constantly. It's a tool, and I use it constantly. And I couldn't take my Leatherman tool flying anymore. And I couldn't even take fingernail clippers, let alone my Leatherman tool. So the things I had taken for granted for so long were taken away now, and for arguably for cause. And we all know that things went a little ridiculous. Fingernail clippers. Seriously. Those are the biggest things. The encroachment on personal liberties. I see that as the biggest loss, and those don't really come back so much. If somebody generates a cause to take your liberties, it's really hard to get those back. So you have to fight for them when you can, as hard as you can.
And a lot of changes have happened in the industry since September 11th of 2001. A lot of it had to do with security. We had the invent of the TSA that didn't exist before 9/11. There was a time where you could walk your family to the gate and see them off and give them that final hug and kiss goodbye. And that all changed afterwards. We had flight deck doors that were now bulletproof reinforced materials. Those had to be manufactured and put in place on all the aircraft around the world. And things like tools and any kind of object that could be considered a weapon was now strictly removed from the environment through screening and security. And these changes didn't happen overnight. And many say that things are better security-wise now versus how they were then. But can you remember what it was like before all these security changes? And was it real? Is it really better now, or do you think that it's just different?
I think it's different. There are some ways that it's better, and there's some ways that it's not better. In a lot of cases, I think it's eyewash. But there's some things that I'm really sad to not see anymore. The teary goodbyes, at the gate, and for that matter, I was flying for Mustang Air. I flew a flight up to Portland, and a fella got on the airplane with a bunch of roses and a bunch of leaflets, and he coordinated with the flight attendants, and he said, when I get off the airplane in Portland, there's going to be a young lady there waiting for me at the gate. And I would like to give a bunch of these roses out to a bunch of passengers with this picture of her. And I'd like them to hand her the rose when they get off the airplane. And when I come out, I'm going to propose to her. And so I had to see this. The flight attendants told me about this. And so got up. And of course, all these people went off and they saw her. She was right near the gate. And they walked up to her and handed her a rose. And she had this whole great big bundle of roses when he finally came out. And I made sure I got out there before he did because I wanted to see it. And he went out, got on his knee and proposed to her. And you can't do that anymore.
Yeah. How would you express the significance of how 9/11 changed the industry to a young aviator that maybe was not old enough 20 years ago to have experienced it firsthand?
I'd take him out to the local airport, and we'd walk across the runway, and I'd show him the lights, and I'd show him everything that you can't do at a big airport. We'd go in, we'd go climb in my Champ, and we'd go take off without using a radio. And we'd go land in a grass field, and I think that'd be the best way to start off. Just how it used to be. The airlines were a little bit different. You couldn't walk out on the runway, but some places you could.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I have a local airport by us. I take my daughter there occasionally we go get lunch and go sit there because there's no fence. You just park there and watch the airplanes come in and do their touch and goes, and it's a lot of fun. It's a great experience.
Yeah, I take my son. He just got his private pilot license. He'd been flying with me since he was just a couple years old, and we go out to the airport. And he's off in college now. I just took him to college, and
wow.
If I talk about it too much, I'm going to get choked up because I miss him. But we go out and we climb in the airplane, we fly, and we come back, and it's a little airport, and there might be an airplane there on the ramp, but and there might be somebody else out there doing something in the hangar, but probably not. And we push the airplane back in the hangar, and we get our chairs, and we go to the cooler and grab a drink, and we sit out there, and we talk. We say enjoy our private country club out there, and we got to hang on that for as long as we can.
Yeah. So GA is absolutely important to stay into. I know there are a lot of pilots that I've flown with over the years that have been in the airline industry for 20 plus, and they've don't have an airplane of their own, and they just haven't been in GA at all. They've done the airline career, and they don't have the luxury of going out to that small airport and sitting there and listening to instructors give some young 16-year-old their first flight lesson, and they don't see not unlike how we no longer see families and loved ones off at the gate. Now it's on the other side of security. It's not the same thing. We don't see that. It's the same when you're not involved in general aviation, at least here in the US. You don't get to see the passion and the smile from ear to ear when we're talking about airplanes. And that's something that is important to hang on to, because that freedom of the sky in a single engine piston, to be out there with just the wind noise and gliding
not
across,
having to talk to anybody. Yep.
That is what it's all about. And lest we forget that that's the reason we got into this industry.